to Dave's Tiny Kitchen. Today, something a little bit different again. Everything seems to be different lately, but look at this. Look at what Ken gave me. It's an absolute monster. It weighs something like 3 kilos. It's a huge great marrow. I'm going to be making ginger and marrow jam. Well, prepare, peel, slice, dice our marrow into sizes, into little cubes about the size of well, sugar lumps. So I don't know where to start. This is Mr. Marrow on the inside. Yeah. Okay. This is all like a mushy seed in the middle, so we'll scoop that out, get rid of that. So this is what we're looking for, pieces around about this size. Okay, we're back. As you can see, that big beast that I had just now, that marrow, I've now de-seeded, took the pith out, peeled him, her, whatever it is, peeled it, and chopped it up into chunks this size. There's now 1.8 kilos of marrow there, so we can work out how much sugar we're going to need and so on. But that huge beast is turned into this huge bowl of chopped marrow. Okay, we're back. Like I said, the marrow's 1.8 kilo of marrow is already cut up, ready to go. For 1.8 kilos of marrow, oddly enough, I've checked the recipe, it's 1.8 kilos of sugar, just ordinary granulated sugar. To make that set, obviously we need either liquid pectin or powdered pectin. This is my powdered. I've got both actually. So for that amount of fruit, that comes out, it works out at about 15 grams of pectin, which is already in there. You mix that with a little sugar. So let's just do that now. It's a very fine particled stuff, pectin. It's very dusty. I suspect that's why you mix it with sugar, to stop it from floating off into the atmosphere. I don't know, but it's always done that way. Maybe it helps it start. If you put it in jams or something when you've got it hot, or you can't add it. You can add it at the start. You can't add it later when the stuff is hot, because all that'll happen is you'll get one big lump of pectin, and it's a nightmare. You live and learn, don't you? But yeah, that's that. Ground ginger, obviously dried, is much more intense. It's a stronger flavour which is easily spread, and I think that'll be absolutely perfect for initially 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'll put the ingredients in the box below anyway, but that's it to start with. We'll crack on with the actual cooking of it now. We're not adding any water to our marrow in the pan, because marrow is quite high in the water content anyway. So it's different than normal jams and jellies, perhaps where you add some water to get it all going. You don't with this apparently, but you do put in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice right now. So that's 1. And we're going to be kind of like cooking this until it goes translucent. It doesn't actually go mushy to start with, it should go translucent, and then we can move on to the next bit. So what I'll do, I think, is I'll put the lid on and just keep an eye on it. You don't want to watch that. Okay, and this is probably about 10 minutes in, on a medium-ish heat. Again, no water, but it's starting to go go like this, you can see it's changed from that thick white colour to this kind of softened translucent colour. One thing I would suggest if you're ever going to try this yourself is my sugar lump size cubes that I cut, they're probably a bit big, and it's probably, if you made them actual sizes of the sugar lumps, pretty, you know, half of what I did really. It'd take you a lot longer chopping, but it's a hell of a lot easier to stir. You can see in here, I mean, there's quite a lot of fluid or juice coming out of this marrow. So like I say, it's got a high water content, which is obviously why you don't add any to start with, just the 2 tablespoons about of lemon. 15 minutes or so on a medium heat, stirring most of the time. Quite a lot of juice in the bottom of this now. Mostly all the chunks are translucent pretty much, so I think now's the time to move on to the next bit. That is adding the sugar with the, stay there, I've got the shakes today, I don't know why. The sugar with the pectin in. As that goes in, about 1 teaspoon of ginger, ground ginger. And then the rest of the sugar, which is God, it's a lot of sugar. 1.8 kilos of sugar. Man, that looks ridiculous, but we shall see. And then another tablespoon of lemon juice. And that, as they say, is about that. In fact, as you see already, the juice in that marrow, it's already melting that sugar. Brought the heat back to about number 4 out of 12, so about a third, 30% heat maybe. And we just stir this around until all the sugar is melted. Okay, what I did, those big lumps of marrow in my jam, I took my potato masher, which you've seen before, and I gave it a good mash down with that, and it was still quite hard work, so I got the hand blender out, and one of these, and I just blitzed it down basically very carefully because that's hot. A few minutes later, as you can see, it's boiling nicely. So this is just about a rolling boil. If I stir it, it continues to boil. You see it's still boiling. You can't stop the boil but just by stirring. So that's a rolling boil, and we're going to let that go like that for about 5 minutes. I won't bore you with that, so we'll leave it go for its 5 minutes, and we'll come back. Okay, we've been at a rolling boil for 5 minutes now. What we do to test for setting point, we have a plate, small plate, a saucer if you like, which is really cold. I've just taken it out of the fridge, and we take a little bit of the liquid and we just drop it onto the cold plate. We put it back in the fridge gently for a couple of minutes. After a couple of minutes, we take that plate out and we see if it wrinkles. If, as you push your finger through the liquid, if it wrinkles and looks, that's going to set. If it doesn't, if it's still really liquidy, it's not going to set. It hasn't reached setting point. and then you have to do that every 3 minutes from this point on, basically. So a couple of minutes, test for setting point. If not, we have another dob and check. Okay, this has been in the fridge for a couple of minutes. You can see there, that's actually very close to setting. You see it kind of wrinkles as I push my finger through it. Not quite. Okay, back out. This is our next blob that we test. It's not quite wrinkling, it's not far off it. Okay, this is now about, well, probably about 45 minutes later. I've just tested again. I've tested about 8 times so far. Really tasty. If you see, as I push my finger through it, you get that clean line, and it doesn't kind of fall back on itself. So I reckon that's ready to put in the jars. Jam funnel or a jelly funnel, and that sits on top of the jam jar. To sterilise these jam jars, you put them in an oven, clean. Obviously, you wash them as best you can first, spotlessly clean in the wash, then rinse them, let them dry, put them in an oven, and let the oven temperature come up to 140 degrees for 10 minutes. And then these jars are hot. I use these tongs to take the jars out of the oven. They need to be hot. You need to bottle this or jar this while it's hot. So don't touch the jar. The jar is, as I say, very hot. That's it. And if you can see, the level is just up to the funnel of the jar. We'll lift that out, we'll put that in the next jar, ready to go. That jar is hot, that stuff is hot. We leave it, we don't move it, we just leave it and we move on to the next jar. It's as simple as that. Our lids have been in boiling water and they've been sterilising. Do not touch these jars. You need to put the lid on them while the jars are hot. So we've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 jars and a little taster tester. We'll allow that to go cold. As the jars go cold, you'll hear a very satisfying click as they form their own seal. And that's it. Store these in a dark, cool cupboard for a month or so to let the flavour develop, and then just enjoy. There we are. Good morning everyone. Welcome to Dave's Tiny Kitchen. Alright my lovers. Cut. Welcome to Dave's Tiny Kitchen. Taking a day off today. So it's bullshit. Start again. Cut.